New Legacy's Transition to LelimLelur, Part 1 by Kaneen Mafa. How the foundation for New Legacy came to be. In August 2005, Katrina happened. The founder of New Legacy, for her survival, evacuated to Atlanta, Georgia, where she gained knowledge about advocacy and missionary work under the guidance of her second chosen mother, Dee Dee Shambly. This was where she would also legally change her name to Tila, a name meant to mock her apparent feminine nature. The name given to her by her grand auntie and one of her uncles. This photo was taken around 2007, 2008. Before the return to Louisiana in 2009, New Legacy founder was an active member of Common Ground, a space for those living with HIV and AIDS. She was a student at Beulah Heights University Seminary School and a member of Tabernacle Baptist Church's First Trans Ministry. All these photos were taken between 2006 and 2008. Returning to Louisiana, activated and ready to advocate. Upon Tila's return to Louisiana in 2009, there were still few safe spaces for Black trans women to socialize outside of some of the local gay bars. The pickup bars were dangerous because the police were heavily targeting Black trans women. Organizing in the French Quarter would cost Tila. She was arrested twice in the same year of her return. Once for 21 days, and the last time was 104 days. This image was prior to jail time, captured in a small, inclusive church on Tulane, the same street on which Tila was born. We remember Dominique Morgan, aka Deaky. She was a trailblazer and inspiration to the work of elevation and liberation. She fought for Black trans women in New Orleans, Louisiana. She was doing amazing work before Tila's return. These images are from 2009 to 2010. Sadly, she passed in December of 2016 at the age of 39. Friction in community causes growth. In the fall 2010, Tila applied for a job at Brotherhood Inc. It was the first opportunity of their kind for a Black trans woman in New Orleans. These positions would lead to the first of many opportunities. Several girls showed up for a chance at the jobs. One was for part-time and one for full-time. Tila was chosen for neither position. The reason was not professional, but personal. Dominique and Tila had tension between them, involving a shared romantic interest. The friction caused Dominique, as a key board member, to vote against Tila for either position. The decision brought much disappointment to Tila, as she felt she had been preparing for such an opportunity. Yet, had it not been for that no, New Legacy would have never came to be. The defining moment of 2010 that solidified the need for New Legacy Ministries. Before incarceration, Tila was collaborating with Brotherhood Inc. to hold the first Transgender Remembrance Day in New Orleans, Louisiana, hosted by Black trans women. This was necessary because Black trans women are still the most impacted by systemic violence. In years prior, there had been Remembrance Day events hosted by Louisiana Trans Advocates, an organization group ran by white trans women. Unfortunately, as a result, there was little to no actual Black trans women present to contribute to these events. This would all change in 2010. New Legacy Ministries would come into fruition January of 2011, holding its first documented gathering February of 2011. New Legacy shifted the culture of the community. New Orleans has always had a rich legacy of powerful matriarchal figures like Tara Lynn Fox, Allegra White, Opal Vanderhurst, and Bliss Davis, to name a few. However, historically, this homage acknowledgement has been predominantly contingent upon the support of gay men, be they Black or white. Many Black trans femmes' narratives were molded, interrogated, and scrutinized through the lens of our gay brothers, for better or for worse. This fact to this day plays a major part in how many of us show up in and navigate society. New Legacy helped to change that by fostering a space where Black trans femmes could find their voices independent from their gay brothers. New Legacy's Christian roots. New Legacy was a Christian-based organization. Hence, it still centered a patriarchal mindset. This was evident in the original logo and the fact that Tila's pastor and mentor at the time, a Caucasian Englishman, officiated the first official gathering. Truly, we were gaining physical independence, yet we had not gained our mental independence. Images from February 2011. What set New Legacy Ministries apart? There was no organizing or movement work in the state, much less the city, that centered Black trans women's voices in 2011. Black trans women were the most known for entertainment, pageantry, and sex work. While those three are honorable professions, none have historically required Black trans women to be known for having a voice or a sound opinion. Tila understood the assignment. She used her relationships in community to have trans women who were well known to come in and speak to the next generation, to show them what was possible and inspire them to go even further. Tila often opened their home as sanctuary and shared her resources to elevate Black trans femmes. Tila was determined to change the narrative that allowed for Black trans femmes to die without the world ever truly witnessing how dynamic and profound they could be. Jasmine Bonet and Haley Loic were amongst two of our most memorable speakers in the earlier stages of New Legacy's movement work. These images are from the spring of 2011. New Legacy's transition begins. In 2012, Tila's partner was incarcerated. And because of all they had shared, she could not so easily move on. They endured a difficult breakup before his sentencing. This period forced Tila to reflect on how she was centering him in her movement work, yet doing most of the work. When he went to prison, even more responsibility fell on Tila. But during that period, something powerful happened. Tila realized it wasn't her partnership to cis men or even her ability to have a cis male partner that drew people to her. It was her. Though Tila continued to preach a message that uplifted patriarchy, something in her was indeed changing. And the change would soon usher in the evolution of the movement work that had called her. Images from summer of 2012, Tila Love and Jasmine Davis. What New Legacy proved to the city and to thousands via our online community. As New Legacy began to gain traction, proof that Black trans women were able to organize outside of spaces that centered a male gaze was evident. We were building relationships with public officials, receiving community awards, and one of our own founding members, Milan Cherie, would even receive an opportunity that would sustain her financially for years to come via her affiliation with New Legacy. New Legacy was truly the foundation for her to become a draft pick in the world of advocacy. The following images are taken between 2012 and 2014. New Legacy broadens its focus and explores a feminist perspective. It was 2015, nearly 1 year after Tila had undergone genital reconstruction surgery. She had stepped away from working for the State Office of Public Health. She was the first openly Black trans femme employed alongside of Jada Cardona, the state's first openly trans Latinx employee. She ended up resigning after realizing it was a token position, and she was being paid for her silence during a time where her voice was needed most. Tila would channel this disappointment into an amazing story told by her and Antron Alugayote. Adam's Womb. This was a story where she officially severed the umbilical cord that remained between her and the gay black men who treated her as if she were incapable to lead or needed to wait in line to be acknowledged by them. Since Tila was no longer employed to pay for her art and missionary work, she fell back into sex work and wound up having one of the most horrible experiences she'd had since her last incarceration. Tila was sexually assaulted and held at gunpoint in the same night. Exhausted with patriarchal figures, she called the assailant's bluff and told him to shoot her. He did not. Tila got out of his car and walked for 3 miles, never to return to that block again. She used that money to travel back to Louisiana to be the keynote speaker for a march being put on by Breakout under the direction of former founding member Milan Nicole Sherry. This speech that Tila gave on that day marked the shift from the Christian message where a male deity received praise and worship. In that speech, Tila called out the names of murdered sisters and called for feminine-centered beings to be protected. These images were taken between 2015 and 2017. New legacy, ancient legacy. 2015 was a challenging year. Tila was experiencing so much grief from patriarchal figures in her life. Her partner came home from prison not long after they officially separated. Then she stepped away from her job at the state due to a conflict with her boss, a gay black man, who was also a patriarchal figure. Finally, she ended up with a gun in her face, trying to make ends meet in the streets, at the hands of another patriarchal figure. Tila was waking up to the fact that the white picket fence was not meant to be her future. No matter how hard she tried to make it happen, she would never be the same, and neither would New Legacy. These images are from 2015 and 2016. New Legacy goes into a cocoon. It was not easy for Tila to let go of New Legacy, having nurtured it for over 4 years. It was conceived in love and all she had left of her partner. She'd helped build up trans visibility locally, virtually, and nationally. She'd built solid relationships with city council members and raised awareness about the plight of Black trans women via public access television, and supported movements like Can Can't Stand, founded by Wendy Cooper. Tila openly modeled Black love before community, became a strong faith leader in the local queer community, even inspiring sermons. She'd worked in a state level position and began her expansion into the art world using painting and performance art as her vehicle. She began to align herself with women who were faith leaders in the Christian faith as a last-ditch effort to hold on to New Legacy. But it was not enough. New Legacy was a caterpillar destined to become a butterfly. Just like its founder, New Legacy was also trans. Image from 2015. resurrected, rebirthed, and renamed. After attending an artist residency at the Garden of Peace Project in Pennsylvania of 2017, Tila, now Keneen, knew it was time. She felt the cocoon opening, like a womb beginning to dilate. But this time, she could not call this force by name alone. It had to be done by a collective. So the universe sent two beings, Fasola and Empathy, together during a fast on December 25th of 2017. They would sit in a circle and each contribute to the new name of New Legacy after its resurrection. LelimLelur. LelimLelur means let him, let her. I am whole. This chapter of the work would be about spiritual growth and facing fears, loyalty. It will reveal to us who our true tribe was. It will test bonds of family, community, both biological and chosen. Eventually, Empathy and Fasola left her to continue their individual journeys. During this season, Keneen grieved who she was. She grieved Tila. And in that grief, she turned to old habits and began using strong substances again. But that too was a part of the journey because in that season, Keneen realized the depths of her strength and her will to endure. Alone with LelimLelur, Keneen, still passionate about community, had become isolated. Although she was still respected in community, a lot of those who she was in close community with began to distance themselves and focus on their own personal agendas. So Keneen felt it was time to expand her idea around community. Though she had found love again, she was being called to spread her wings and experience community in a place that had the capacity to support this new vision of wholeness. In the fall of 2018, Octavia Lewis, a sister she met serving on a national board called Positively Trans, extended the invitation to Keneen to help her get set up in New York. And so it was. Keneen would live outside of New Orleans for the first time since she returned in 2009. Image from 2016 in South Africa, mind you. Unapologetically LelimLelur, Keneen met new community in New York. She worked with so many super talented trans artists. She got serious about recording music. Every song she wrote and was featured on contained a message about LelimLelur. All of her paintings and artwork related to the practice. Development of the practice would eventually call her to travel back to South Africa for 9 months at the end of 2019 in the wake of COVID-19. Sasha Newstate would make this dream a reality. Then, upon Keneen's return, they would go on to publish their first book in 2023. The book would honor LelimLelur in its final recollecting moments. LelimLelur was becoming a culture for her. LelimLelur was becoming a way of life. Thank you for taking this trip with us down memory lane. To be continued.